Hi there. Let's work on a little bit of mobility work to warm up the feet, ankles, knees, and hips. So to start, come to lay down onto your belly, bringing your hands so that your elbows are underneath your shoulders. Squeeze into the glutes and the low back. Let's lift the chest, lift the chin. And then from here, push down through the elbows, lift your hips up, pull your knees forward, come back into a child's pose. Pulling back forward into seal, coming down, tuck the knees under, bring the chest through. And then we push back to child's pose, coming up, bringing the knees forward, sitting the tail back, pushing down through the hands, let the chin round. Come forward one more time, bringing belly to floor, chest comes forward, and then pushing your hands and elbows, coming back one more time. And then let's push up, bringing our knees together to close, pointing the toes behind you. Let's lean back slightly. Lift the knees, bringing your knees all the way down, hands come in front of you, tuck the toes under, push up to sitting, hands come down to the floor, untuck the toes, point them, shift the body weight back, maybe hands come down to either side of your hips, maybe lifting the knees, rolling forward again, tuck the toes under, push the hands off the mat, come to sit up. One more each direction. Hands come down to mat. Release the toes, point the feet, lean the body weight back. Hands come down to hips. And we're doing one more at live. Tuck the toes under, coming up. And let's just take a breath here with our toes tucked under, noticing what you feel. Push into the mat, hands coming down to the mat. I'm just going to turn, but you can stay facing the same way. Come to bring your toes nice and wide, pointing outwards. Let's come down into a squat, maybe bringing your hands to the insides of your knees, pressing them open. Notice what you feel as you breathe here. And we will add a little bit of mobility. So maybe left hand comes down to the floor, right hand lifts up, and switch. As you switch, try not to let your knees shift direction. Switching again. And switch. And switch. Switching again, and coming back to center. From here, really pushing your feet down into the floor, hands come down to the mat, push your hips up, let your legs extend, and then sitting back down, coming through. Pushing up through the feet, let the hips reach up to the sky. And sitting back down. As you're doing this, make sure you're pushing into all four corners of the feet, lifting up once again. You want to keep that arch engaged in our foot, and coming back down. And one more up tall, and coming back down. Nice. From here, both hands coming over either side of your right leg, lean forward, let your hands find the floor, let both of your knees tap down. Coming back up to the center, lean over to the left, let both of your knees tap down. Switching sides, moving slow and with control. As we shift, loading the ankles, slightly different ranges, moving those hips through internal, external rotation. Keep moving back and forth. Let's do one more on each side. And coming back to the center. From your center squat, bring your hands forward. Let's let our knees come down. And we'll tuck our toes behind us. Again, I'm just going to shift so you can see me a little bit better. And from here, bring your feet or your knees about hips distance apart, but we want to make sure it's not wider than hips distance like the squats we have been doing. So from here, tuck your toes under, and then push through your hands. Let's come all the way up. See how close you can drop your heels. Squeeze your thighs together. And then reach forward, tap the knees down, pushing back up, leaning into the heels. Reaching forward, tapping down, leaning back up. Reaching forward, heels tap down, pushing back. Good. Doing a really similar variation, but this time I am walking my feet about max distance apart and my toes are turned outwards so that I can come back down into that nice wide-legged squat. Really similar motion, hands come forward. I'm gonna let both my knees tap down onto the mat, push back into my squat, and let's keep moving forward and back. Moving forward and back. One more like this. Forward and back. Whoops. And if that's challenging enough, you can stay on that level, or we can add a second part to that exercise. So coming all the way forward, you might choose to hold here, or tuck the toes under, bring hands to hip, thrust. Hands come to the mat, toes tuck under, push back. Come forward again, toes come forward. Sorry, knees come forward, toes untuck, hip thrust. Coming back, feet find the floor. Leaning forward again, toes untuck, hip thrust. And then coming back into our, actually come all the way down onto your seat. Again, I'll turn to face you just so it's a little easier. We'll do one last motion. So let's take our legs on two 90-degree angles here. So I've got my left leg out in front, flexed my foot. You can't see my foot behind me, but it's also flexed on the floor, and I've got this nice 90-degree angle in both of my, now I've got this nice 90-degree angle in both of my legs. Why don't you take a moment, try to turn your chest to face the same direction as your hip bones, and with the leg that's behind you, try to sink your hip down into the mat. Take a couple breaths here, notice how it feels. And we're going to add a little bit of movement. So hands are going to rotate up and over, bringing the knees up into the midline, and then coming down on the other side. Turn your chest away. Try to let those legs land in a 90-90 shape. Thinking about sitting your hips equally down into the mat. Take a breath here. And then arms reach up and over. Switching sides. Hands come down. Let's keep this movement a little more fluid. Switching sides. Come on back. Notice how it feels. It might feel very different side to side. Switching again. And coming back up through center. Down. Switch one more time. This time, when you turn to face that side, really make sure you square your shoulders over your hips, and then bring your hands in front of that chin. See if you can lean the chest forward without this bum cheek lifting up. I want to think about heeling it down towards the floor while you bow forward. Nice big inhale, come up. Reaching your hands up and over, switch those knees. Let's come into the other side. So I'm traveling away here. As you come to sit on the other side, shoulders square over hips. Sit both bum cheeks down, and then hinging from the hips, reach forward, add some load. Notice how it feels. Good. Coming back up. Hands can come on either sides of our hips. Let's bring our knees up towards the ceiling, feet about as wide as our mat, really lifting the breastbone up towards the ceiling, keep the back long. Nice big inhale into the belly. Exhale, drop both knees down towards one side. Inhale up into the center. Exhale over to the other side. Nice big inhale up into the center. Exhale to the other side. Inhale and exhale. Great. Knees come back up to the center. And that concludes our really short and speedy lower body mobility work. Notice what you feel side to side. We notice these kinds of imbalances when we're working both legs at once. And things change depending on what muscles are tight and how often you practice. So some of these moves might have been really challenging and others really easy. Be gentle. We're not here to compare ourselves, but we are here to keep trying to move through pain-free ranges so that we can enjoy the things we love. So give it a try.